haymaker, I am really happy. I have finally gotten around to creating something that has been in my mind for months. And if you're like me, you know, your mind is constantly racing. You have so many ideas. Sometimes you can't even sleep at night because your mind just won't turn off. And so this has been something I've been wanting to work on for a while, and I'm so glad that I finally did and I can share it with you. So last year, before my days as a mom with a laser, I made these really gorgeous paper flowers, Patriotic paper flowers that I made as door hangers. And ever since I got my machine, I'm like, man, I wish I could come up with like a lasered version. And I finally have. And I can't wait to show it to you. But first, it's time for cafecito. It's time for cafecito. It's time for cafecito. Well, now I've had my cafecito, I'm so ready to share what I've made with you. And here it is, dun 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 dun! My beautiful Patriotic door hanger. I love it so much. And I made it in 3 different layers, or 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 different layers to give it some dimension. And all the stars are cut out and glued on. I hope you can see that. And I think it really looks pretty. Now, it's not a perfect circle. I did my best to create like these perfectly symmetrical petals. But let's face it, I'm not an artist, or at least I'm a rookie artist and I'm still learning. But I think it kind of gives it some dimension and some character. So let me show you how I put it together.
Step number 1 is to sand, paint, and mask my wood. Then I'm going to put her under the laser to be cut. My strategy with this piece is to actually cut everything like a puzzle so it makes painting easier. However, with the back panel, you'll see I am cutting the outer edge and I am scoring the outline so that everything else has something to be glued onto. I was pressed for time with this project, so I ended up just using whatever I had on hand, which meant I ended up making this with 2 different types of wood, both a 1/4 inch birch and an 1/8 of an inch birch. However, if I did it again, I would do it all in the same thickness.
Okay, so it's really important when you're working on an outside piece to make sure that you seal both the back and not just the front, also the back, because what if, what if water gets in between the grooves of your layer? So the sealant's just gonna help it last longer. So I'm gonna use Varathane's oil-based exterior sealant for the back. I'm not going to use this on the front because I have white paint, and oil-based sealants always yellow anything white. So I'll use a different sealer for the front, but I'm just going to go ahead and spray this on and let it dry.
So I decided I wanted to go with a vintage Americana feel. To start, I'm going to peel off the masking that covers my outline. Then I'm going to take a cheap bristle brush, and with my black paint, I am going to sloppily paint the edge. Then I'm going to wipe it with a rag, and lastly, I'll sand it down to give it a rustic vintage feel. I'm going to do this to the outline of all of the pieces, including the flower center. Now it's time to paint my petals. First, I took a small brush and I painted along the edge of my black outline. And this part gets a little trippy because you've got this spiral effect going on. So you want to make sure that you're painting the colors on the right petal. And then I filled it in with a sponge brush. Since I already had my red paint out, I went ahead and I laid down my other layers so that I could determine which other petals needed to be painted the same color. So I separated my petals and got to painting. Lastly, to give the piece even more of a vintage feel, I decided I wanted to distress the blue petals, including the petals on the back layer that butted up against the black outline.
Now it's time to assemble, and I am just so happy that you guys are here for emotional support. Because I have had this in the back of my mind. I mean, I've been wanting to do this for months, and I'm finally getting around to it. So the first thing I'm gonna do, the backs are everything has been sealed. The back, the front, and then I'm gonna seal it again. once it's all done. So now I've got to put it together. Now, this isn't a perfect circle because I could not draw perfect symmetrical petals for the life of me, but I think it just gives it a little more character, you know what I mean? So there's one, let's see. Okay, lining it up is probably the most challenging, but it's really not that hard. I mean, you figure it out pretty quickly. Okay, I got it. These two petals here actually have like a straight line, and you don't see this because the other piece goes on top, but that's how I know that this is the center part of this layer on top of this. So let's get to gluing. If you've watched my tutorials, you know that I like to use two different types of glues. I use Titebond Original, and I put it into these little squeeze bottles. Okay, I originally got these from Hobby Lobby, but you can get them on Amazon. They're super easy. And I like to use clear Gorilla Glue, this one right here. Okay, but this one is a pain to work with because once you put it down, you can't move it. And since this is a piece that I kind of have to figure out when I'm laying it flat, I'm not going to use the clear glue. I'm going to use my ever so faithful and forgiving Titebond Original. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've glued on this layer, and before I keep gluing more layers, I need to go ahead and put on some kind of hanger. So I don't even know if this is like a good idea, but this is an idea I came up with. So for those of you who are professional door hanging artists and you make these regularly, if there's a better way to do this, by all means, please let me know. But this was my little theory. So I've taken some twine and I'm just gonna tie it up. And this way I have my hanger ready to go. Okay, so it's tied. I've got my little hanger here. And honestly, now that I've made it, I realize, I didn't have to cut out a whole circle. I'm gonna fix my file so that it only cuts like here, and this is the only opening, because then you have enough support for the other pieces. I have to kind of piece it together now to make it work, but hey, trial and error, that's how we do here. Everything's a learning experience. So you won't have to do this if you end up wanting to get this file. I have to do this because it's the first one I made and now I'm making it better. Okay, so now I'm gonna get my second layer, my stencil. I just love this distressed theory, this distressed method. It looks awesome, so pretty. Okay, and then I'm going to place it where I want it and glue it down. Now what I'm gonna do is my little stars, they still have the masking on it, and I would use Gorilla Glue to get them all off, but I'm out, so I'm just gonna have to peel it off. But before I do that, I am gonna go ahead and just set my 50 stars on my glue petals, just so I can, there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just kind of throwing them on there, but I wanna make sure that it looks good. So I'm gonna set them down first, make sure I like where everyone's placed, and then I'll glue them together. Okay, I've got them where I want them. Typically, if I'm sitting and I'm working on something like this, I like to stand up and look over top to make sure everything kind of looks nice and uniform. And now I'm gonna use my clear Gorilla Glue, because these, when I set them down, it doesn't really matter. They don't have to be perfect and precise, so this is gonna save me time. Well guys, that's it for today. I hope you had fun doing the cafecita dance with Mom and I hope you had fun learning how to make this gorgeous patriotic door hanger with me. It's not perfect, but as you can see, it definitely comes together beautifully. So if you want to make one too, I'd love to see what you do with it. I was undecided. I was like, do I go vintage? Do I make the outline gold? Do I make it like a sparkly white glitter, silver? There's so many different things that you could do, and I'd love to see your version of it. So if you want to make one, you can get the file over at my Etsy shop, and I'll see you here next time, guys, at That Mom with a Laser.
You know I want to hear from you. Show me some love and leave me some comments below. Let me know if you have any questions. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you here next time at That Mom with a Laser.